Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire pedophile, flying around and cavorting with all sorts of rich and powerful people, gets caught while in prison, mysteriously dies. Apparently suicide. Since then, no one else other than Ghislaine Maxwell, his madame, his partner in crime, his handler, sidekick, mistress, other than her, no one else has been punished. The idea that there's been this network of pedophilia and there's been no listing of who he worked with or who else was part of this has been a long source of consternation and political turmoil. People have always felt a simmering rage that this guy kind of evaded justice through not being placed on suicide watch, mysteriously dying, and then no one else getting punished. It all just feels like a cover. It feels very smeary. And so for years, basically, Epstein was caught and died during Trump won. Just a reminder on timeline. But during the whole Biden administration, there was this rallying cry that once Trump came back to power, he would finally release the Epstein files, release the client list that the DNC was hiding. And now we'd get the fucking truth. And now we'd figure out, we'd drain that swamp and we get to the bottom of it. And then, Trump does win and he sweeps into power and he puts Pam Bondi in charge and she's talking about it. She's walking around with binders that say like the Epstein client list, the Epstein documents, the Epstein client list. Like, are these just fake? And they were like, these are going to be released. It's fucking time. And then nothing happens. And then people start asking more. And then recently, when a reporter asked about it, Trump snaps. And he goes, why are we still talking about this creep? Let's move on. And then he posted this huge rant that we talked about already where he's like, Obama wrote those files. Obama and the crooked DNC wrote those files. We can't trust them. We're not going to release them. They don't exist. Just like a complete backtracking. And obviously, there's a lot of things you can get away with in politics. There's a lot of promises you can make and then later sweep under the rug. But this promise was so concrete and said so loudly and so specifically for so long that just being like, nah, move on, does not fly. And so it's weird because there's been a lot of things that I would personally think are red flags, red lines to draw with Trump's actions in the first 100 days. But this one has really hit with a lot of right-leaning podcasts or crowds. Andrew Schultz of Flagrant basically came out and had a whole rant about it because, this was a thing that everyone wanted to see these files get released, and now nothing's happening. It was the straw for a lot of people. It's becoming the straw for a lot of people. It's becoming a very weird moment where everyone's like, is someone corrupt or guilty? Coffeezilla has been taking the lead on this story on his Voidzilla account. And I think has put out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos in 6 days. All of them that have millions of views about the Epstein thing. Now, we don't have to watch all of these. I was probably going to watch this one because it seemed interesting, and maybe this one. But we could start with the first one, I guess. Where they first talked about no client list.
Today we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, the big update, which is just that he had no client list and offed himself. That's according to Axios in a big scoop. They apparently got a hold of this document from the US DOJ and FBI, kind of a joint statement here. We're going to go through it. They say, as a part of a commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of the investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein, sort of a relook at the evidence, if you will, and they come to some very interesting findings. And it's interesting in that it's contrary to what a lot of what they've been saying all along, and that's what's kind of the problem here. For the last few months, we've been teased along with these statements about, we've got the client list.
Yeah.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
We've got thousands of videos.
There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child.
And then, Kash Patel goes on Joe Rogan and says, hey, there ain't no videos. If I had a video of a guy on an island committing a felony, don't you think you'd know about it?
Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge.
Dude, the idea that the head of our FBI is leaning into a mic as Joe Rogan puffs smoke into his face. Dude, where's our fucking country at?
Don't you think you'd see it?
So already, seems like a bit of a contradiction. Now, Joe Rogan even tries to give him the out, maybe you don't have it. And he's like, No, we're giving you everything.
If you have access to it.
If I have it, period.
Right.
If I have it. If I have it.
Right. If you have it.
Right.
But you can't say that you have it
No, we're giving you everything we have.
so far.
Everything we have so far is
Have
the
you guys gone over all the video that's available?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what takes so much damn time.
And so there already was a wedge with what we were sort of told we're going to get versus then they come out and say, hey, nothing to see here. And today is a little bit more of that. It's a little bit more of the finger wagging at the conspiracy theorists, which is ironic given that both Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who have now come out saying there's nothing to see here, guys, were saying, oh, there's a lot to see here before they got it.
Who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
This doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a suicide.
It's unbelievable. The guy killed himself.
Now, maybe that's because they did a deep dive and they're just being honest with people.
Again, you want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
But I think you deserve criticism if you're going to engage in this type of conspiratorial thinking.
Yeah, it's just so wild to hype it up, amp it up, lean into it, use it to get power. And then when you're there, be like, what are you talking about, you brain-rotted conspiracy theorist? What could you possibly mean? Could we please move on from this whole Epstein nonsense? It just feels very self-serving.
And then when it's convenient for you, you expect the trust of the people. If you're the one saying like, hey, those guys can't be trusted, you become that guy and you go, well, guys, you can trust me, right? When I'm going to say the exact same thing everyone's been saying this whole time. That's why it's so stupid. I mean, you guys set up all the wrong expectations. You told us we're going to reveal the truth, and now they're saying there's nothing to see here, and shame on you for thinking there was. And once again, this is more self-contradiction, because in this statement, we actually find immediately first page, second paragraph, saying that there's a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors. My question is, there's no one else? In this statement, they admit that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. So you got 1,000 people, either some form of evidence that he harmed. Nobody else was involved. Epstein's around the most powerful people on the planet. 1,000 victims. No, nobody else. There's images and videos. Apparently, that's what they say. Nobody else is on camera, right? Because otherwise, that would mean that the FBI director went on Joe Rogan and told a little fib.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
But he says he's going to get the evidence out. So how do you square this, right? There's 1,000 Was Epstein just filming himself the whole time did he put it in the evidence box? I mean, that's the ridiculous thing about this. Why would you film yourself committing these?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the, when police raided Epstein's Palm Beach residence in 2006 for the original time he was locked up, they found hidden cameras in his home with a video surveillance system. He tracked all of the stuff around him and used it, quote, to gain possible blackmail information. He kept compact discs locked in his safe in New York with handwritten labels that included the description of person plus name. And it's implied that it's all himself. None of that, for the second time around, none of that existed, and it's all 1,000 for, it's so interesting to imply that all of this footage you found does not implicate anyone else, and we all need to move on.
Dax, that's where the whole blackmail angle came from, was there's all these videos for what, right? And I'm sure those people, these powerful people, did not consent to being recorded. So what else was this being used for? It's just pretty amazing. This whole statement seems to absolve any third parties, saying that they really have nothing else that they can bring that would expose third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Saying later, this systemic review revealed no incriminating client list. Now, here's what I got to say.
She said it was on her desk. How do you go on the news and say, yes, there's a client list on my desk, and then be like, no, there's no client list?
Yeah, what? You didn't find the little notebook that had every guy that did something wrong on it? Yeah, obviously that's probably not going to exist, right? But if you have videos and somebody appears in the video doing something bad, it's not a client list, but that's a client, right? So I just find it so hard to believe. I just don't believe. I'm going to be honest. I do not believe that you had so many videos, apparently enough to catalog over 1,000 victims, and not a single other person other than Epstein.
On Saturday night, Trump posted a rebuttal saying, for years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we not giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the looters and criminals of the Biden administration? The idea that Obama wrote the Epstein files is so fucking funny to me. Epstein literally arrested and convicted during Trump's administration. And that's when Obama was cooking up the Epstein files. Obama's playing chess, dude. Also, discussed enough already, but they were close friends, man. Epstein and Trump were close friends for 10 to 15 years. Epstein is on tape that said Trump was his closest friend for a period of years. Probably not by the time he recorded this, but that's a tough angle. Yeah, in the late 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s. Nearly 20 years. Direct quote from Trump from New York Magazine in 2002. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. That is a direct quote from New York Magazine in 2002. You can find it right here. Jeffrey Epstein, international money man of mysteries, before he's in October 8, 2002. And there's the quote. I've known Jeff for 50 years. Terrific guy. Real fucking quote, bro. I can't believe Obama. I can't believe a young Obama in 2002 pretended to be Trump, called New York Magazine, and said this quote, knowing he's playing the long con. That was fucking brilliant. Obama's schemes go so fucking deep. The assumption is that all of the people who are constantly photographed hanging out with Epstein hung out with Epstein. I would buy that. I would give that. I'm just Occam's razoring it, that it's probably not what they say, which is yeah, I barely knew him. That was the only photo that we ever spent any time together. It's probably that they were more free about their association with him before it was a problem, and now they pretend like they never knew him.
Appeared on any of them, right? He's friends with all these famous people. He got rich, and nobody knows how he got rich. People suspect that it was some form of blackmail, but the FBI seems to basically say this is a conspiracy theory. They say perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends of combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. I actually agree with that. I do think we have to be careful not to jump to, conspiracy theories. The problem is when you release contradictory evidence, it makes people think that you're hiding stuff like that. That is not.
All right, let's move on to the more recent video, because I think that's where the evidence of him seemingly hiding something seems more real.
The president of the United States is trying to cover the Epstein story. It's the double down right here on Truth Social. A big post saying that actually it's the Democrats who wrote the Epstein files. This is just after Elon Musk, who worked with Trump for many months, said that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Obviously, we've already seen deflections from the president about Epstein, saying that it's a disgrace to talk about him.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It just seems like a desecration.
Dude, it's so fucking crazy. Dude, I talked about this yesterday, but I can't stress enough. This is what a child would do in a show when they were guilty and trying to hide something. This is how you'd write a character.
But today it goes a step further. Quick context. There's been a lot of infighting in the Republican Party over basically who's at fault for the giant botch of the Epstein files, with the majority of Republicans not wanting to believe that Trump himself was against a full release, but rather that he was sort of tricked into not releasing the Epstein files by one of his lackeys. But today, Donald Trump came out and basically backed Pam Bondi, saying they're all going after Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Democrats who conned the world with the Russia hoax? They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Steele dossier. Now, this is such a smokescreen and a deflection. This is not a left versus right issue. Epstein never has been. It's the people versus the predators, not left versus right. The people versus the pedophiles, the people versus the people on planes. There ain't no left versus right here. In fact, some of the people who want this the most are people on the right, even on...
I can't believe Coffeezilla was paid off by Obama. It's fucking sad to see. Someone I trusted, someone I respected to be a voice of sensibility on the internet is completely under the thumb of Barack Hussein Obama. This is crazy, dude. Obama showed up in his tan suit and hypnotized him.
Truth Social, obviously a hugely Trump-favored place. Everybody is saying, no, this is unacceptable. You have to release the files. Later in the post, Trump also says that these are radical left-inspired documents and to not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. But actually, we all do care about it. You know who doesn't actually?
Listen, Trump has a lot of power to change people's minds. He can get a lot of people to care about something or not care about something. He's really pushing the limits to tell people who have talked about Jeffrey Epstein nonstop for 4 years to be like, nobody cares about this. Nobody cares. Nobody, everyone move on. It's like, it's such insane whiplash.
Want this out? The elites. That's why they've never done it. That's why it was a compelling pitch when Donald Trump hinted to his base that maybe he was going to release the files. People largely didn't trust the job that Biden had done. That's why it was a compelling story. So the idea now that it was Biden and Obama who invented the Epstein files is absolutely preposterous.
Also insane that Biden and Obama cooked up these devious files and then didn't release them so that you could run on the fact that you were going to release them and then get to power and then not release them because they're cooked up by Biden and Obama. It makes no fucking sense. It was 9D chess. Dude, it would be so funny to live in a world where Trump is telling the 100% truth. We're like, this makes no fucking sense, Trump. And he's looking over there and Obama's just off camera, smirking deviously. You fell right into my trap. Obama literally sat down and wrote down these fake fucking files, then purposefully got Biden to not release them so that Trump could be like, wait a minute, I want to see them. Run on that, get to power, realize he was hoodwinked. Now it's too late. A Saw level planning by Obama.
They don't want that out either. And maybe that's because, as a producer of 60 Minutes alleged, Ghislaine Maxwell implied that there were tapes on Trump and also tapes on Clinton. You know who else said it? Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, saying Epstein said, what I know about both candidates, the 2016 election would have to be canceled. So this whole idea that this is a left or right thing, it's not. It's the elites. Anybody who was on that plane, anybody who was associated with Epstein, seen with Epstein, even if they did nothing wrong, they don't want that out. Everyone who wasn't seen with Epstein, wasn't on that plane, of course they all want the files out. And what's interesting...
So this is my argument with Aiden on the podcast. Is basically what I said. Listen, here's an example. There was the Boeing whistleblower death. You know, I think I made jokes on here about Boeing murdering whistleblowers. But in reality, my personal opinion is that they didn't. The more I looked into it, the more it's like just being a whistleblower is an incredibly isolating, lonely experience. The guy killed himself. And in fact, Boeing didn't even benefit from his death in really any way. I mean, it was like one person of many that are suing them. And I'm of the opinion that Boeing didn't actually kill anybody. I would hate that. But this one feels so much different to me because the incentive is so strong. If there are rich and powerful people connected to Epstein in this case, for him to not go to trial, not have this case continue, not have it looked into. The incentive is so insanely strong. And then the coincidence of him dying off camera, off suicide watch, guards don't check in every 30 minutes like they're supposed to, is so insanely convenient. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying we don't have an underfunded prison system. I'm not saying we don't have a shitty prison system. You know, if you look into it, even lightly, you know, Epstein is caught, I think, late July. And then a few days later, maybe like a week or two, while he's in prison, the prison suddenly has a total camera outage where like 3/4 of their cameras are down for weeks. And then the day it's supposed to be fixed, he dies. It's just, I'm not saying it's impossible. I guess there's a world where all these things line up. But because the benefit is so high if someone was implicated, it just feels crazy to be told to just move on. It's possible he did kill himself because he did attempt suicide, I believe, before that. But then it's weird because he was on suicide watch and they took him off of it. The whole thing is just so strange. It ruined what conspiracy you actually believe in games forever. Yeah, and I doesn't even feel, I mean, I guess it is a conspiracy if the official story is different, but it just, to me, it's so much more plausible than any other of the normal conspiracy theories that get thrown around. And so I don't feel like it's the same thing to me. I don't feel like I'm being less skeptical than usual.
Interesting is obviously the Trump administration has sort of played footsie with this idea for a long time, playing to their base. They know this is a big issue. They had the influencers stand out there with a bunch of released material, but we also showed clips of Donald Trump implying that maybe Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew were doing bad things on the island.
Bill Clinton.
Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island. That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
So consistently, Trump has hinted that maybe these guys were involved with Epstein, maybe it was bad. But turns out all these guys knew each other and knew Epstein. We know this in part from a Piers Morgan interview where he talks to a lady who went to a dinner party with Trump, Clinton, Epstein, and Prince Andrew.
That's crazy.
Collection of very
That's a horrible blunt rotation. Holy God.
high-powered people. How did they all interact with Epstein? How did Trump, Clinton, and Prince
Everyone
Andrew
seemed-
interact with him?
Call that
Everyone was
call that the yard. You can't say that. You can't say
very, very pally with him, you know. It was like there was a close bonds. You could see that.
So these guys knew each other, apparently had dinner parties together, all of them together. Trump later accuses two of the guys of doing bad things. And then when we release the files, can we release the files? Well, no, actually, no, we can't do that. Nobody cares about that. The reason why seems obvious. Epstein knew Prince Andrew. Yes. He knew Bill Clinton. Yes. But he also knew Donald Trump. And recently tapes were released of Epstein talking and calling Donald Trump his closest friend.
So how do you know this? Donald's closest friend.
So it makes intuitive sense to distance yourself from files that may or may not.
That's so crazy. Dude, Trump is one of the most untouchable people politically of all time. It's crazy what he gets away with. To have Jeffrey Epstein on camera calling you his closest friend for a decade, and to have people support you being like, do I wish he released the files? Sure, but he's bulletproof, dude. He's Neo in the Matrix. Nothing, he's untouchable. Even real bullets, he dodges them. Nothing fucking sticks. It's crazy. Howard Dean is a relatively upstanding guy. He goes, Pyaw! And he lost his chance of the presidency. Fucking Trump has Epstein on camera being like, we were best friends. And then Trump goes, no, I didn't know the man. Barely knew the man. And you don't look into that?
Have your name in it and even distance yourself from the people involved. It's worth stating Trump actually denied knowing Prince Andrew.
I don't know Prince Andrew.
Of course, this was immediately debunked by photos showing the two together. And of course, showing that they clearly knew each other as of 2000. Now, the reason you would deny knowing Prince Andrew, even though you did, is obvious. At the time, he was facing allegations related to Epstein. By the way, allegations that now are basically over. Prince Andrew is very happy about us dropping the Epstein probe. A source for The Sun said he's only been abroad once since the scandal erupted. Prince Andrew has always been very nervous about going abroad and always looking over his shoulder, as he should be, in my opinion. But now he's very happy because the guy who never met him but was photographed with him in 2000 just ended the investigation. Now, I have to say, Trump's been pretty consistent on the fact he has no interest in releasing the Epstein files in full. He said this multiple times. The reason most people have sort of a false memory of this, the reason it's sort of a Mandela effect that he campaigned on the idea of releasing the Epstein files, is because Fox News released a deceptively edited clip where they cut out the part where he said, yeah, I'll probably release the Epstein files. And they cut out the part where then he backtracks on that completely.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
And that's the part most of us saw. Of course, later, people found out that the full clip showed him saying basically the opposite.
Yes, I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole.
Come on, dude. How do you spin this? That's so obvious that you're in there. That's so obvious. Dude, that is not like 9D chess. That is the most obvious, like the thought going through your head as you're saying it.
world.
We also have Bill O'Reilly on News Nation saying he just talked to Trump back on St. Patrick's Day, and Trump basically said the same thing.
He said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with it.
Damn, you hate to see your heroes fading. Bill O'Reilly looks fucking ghoulish. I remember when I was a kid watching Bill O'Reilly every single day to get my talking points. He was vibrant. He looks so fucking old.
Epstein's conduct, they maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for...
He's turning into Biden. Bill O'Reilly and Joe Biden are converging. Who'd have thought that would
one
happen?
thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed. Because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that.
So over and over, we've seen the same answer from the president. Not the fact that, oh, no, the Epstein files, it's a lefty conspiracy. No, actually, it's the worry that people in the files are going to have their lives destroyed by the files. That sounds a lot more like covering for the people in the files than it does covering the victims. We've heard Kash Patel and Pam Bondi talk about, oh, we got to protect the victims.
Go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims.
We're not going to re-victimize women. We're not going to put that back out there.
But when we actually hear the president talk about it, and the real reason, right, because
is bringing the perpetrators to justice re-victimizing the women? Reddit, am I the asshole? I decided not to investigate multiple decade-long sex crimes because I didn't want to re-victimize the women by giving them justice.
Ultimately, the decision maker on whether this gets released. What the real reason is cited is not about victims. It is about the people, the names in the thing. So I find it disgusting. They're using the victims of Epstein as a shield for the people who are actually in these files. Now, of course, who specifically is he worried about? Well, maybe it's his friends. Maybe it's people he has dinner parties with. And of course, maybe it's him, Donald Trump, that he's worried about. The journalist Michael Wolff actually...
It doesn't make any sense. When you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense. If someone commits a crime, it's not re-victimizing you to persecute that crime. When you arrest a murderer, you're basically re-murdering the victims. Listen, if I murder you, it would be a real disservice to your family to bring this whole thing back up again and try to put me on trial.
Quote Steve Bannon as saying Jeffrey Epstein was really feared in 2016 for what he knew.
I was there, and it was that moment, and Bannon said to Epstein, and he said this in a good humor. He said, during the campaign, it would be the 2016 campaign, you, meaning Jeffrey Epstein, were the only person I was afraid of.
So that is 3 independent sources. You've got the Ira Rosen quote, the Michael Wolff quote, and that Mark Epstein quote, all saying that there is some type of damaging information on Trump. 2 of those people specifically implying that it's also on Clinton as well. You also have the Elon Musk allegation from left field, but he doesn't source anybody, so we won't count that. Either way, I must say, I don't know for sure if Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew...
Listen, I don't give Elon Musk an ounce of fucking credit, but the Elon Musk allegation has some weight, if only because Elon Musk was the world's biggest Trump glazer until 1 week before he said it. It has some, in that he was deeply enmeshed in the administration, gave $300 million to support Trump's campaign. So for him to say it is burning a very important bridge. Now, I don't think he's doing it out of a heroic sense of justice for the fucking victims of the Epstein thing. I think he was doing it because he wants to get the EV tax credit back in the fucking bill. I think he's not running on a total lie. I think there's some fucking truth there.
Donald Trump were heavily involved in anything nefarious or not. That is exactly why we should all demand that we open these files. But the possibility of both Democrats and Republicans being implicated in some of these files, whether they did it or not, or just knew him, may give a plausible reason for why the Epstein files have been heavily redacted this whole time. There are very powerful people involved. We've known that. The reason we've been given, of course, is that, we've got to protect the victims. The real reason behind the scenes is really they're protecting the powerful people. Now, the most charitable interpretation is, as Bill O'Reilly said, it's because those people would have their lives ruined. They had nothing to do with Epstein, but we know some of them probably did. We know this from the Miami Herald because the FBI agents who searched Epstein's house found a cache of thick black binders all labeled with names that contained hundreds of naked or semi-naked photographs on CDs that Epstein stored in various places.
Yeah, but all of the names were just Jeffrey Epstein. He wrote his own name on hundreds of fucking binders of CDs and labels, just his own name on every single one. So no one else needs to go to jail. No one else is in trouble. He was practicing his signature.
The labels on the binders were redacted from photos because prosecutors said they were names of third parties.
That's
who were
crazy.
not relevant to the case.
They're not relevant! Investing notorious sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, who's got binders of evidence in his closet with people's names on it. We got to cover those up. We got to cover those up because they're not relevant. Got to imagine it's relevant.
Mounting against Ghislaine Maxwell.
Locking up El Chapo and letting the rest of the cartel off the hook. El Chapo telling you, I did it all alone. I acted alone. I smuggled all the drugs. I committed all the murders myself. I grew the cocaine. I packaged it. I smuggled it. I sold it. It was all me, El Chapo, a one-man cartel.
Well, so my question is, are those some of the third parties? Their names are on binders with a bunch of explicit photographs that Epstein was storing? That seems like something we should be investigating. Or what about the fact that since the FBI is saying there's no blackmail involved with Jeffrey Epstein, we investigate the Wall Street Journal report that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly tried to extort Bill Gates over an extramarital affair because
Yikes.
I thought there was no blackmail involved. And my real plea to people is to not allow comments like this, these statements about partisan politics, to trick you into thinking this is some type of left versus right issue. That is the Trump play right now. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's a disaster. I think it's very stupid. I think people on the right are just as interested as people on the left. I think this is a universal issue, as it should be. If there are predators in the highest offices in the land, be they Democrat
Well
or
said.
Republican, we want to know about it.
Well said. Good video. Yeah, I agree. I fucking agree. But yeah, if there's any good to come from this, absolutely fucking insane, deranged Truth Social by Trump, is that it's so blatantly obvious that it does seem to be a cracking point for a lot of people. I've always said that. I said this fucking since the day of inauguration, but I maintain deep confidence in it. Unless something insane happens, which will always give you an out to subvert the entire democratic process. I'm not saying it could never happen, but unless that happens, the midterms are going to be a fucking bloodbath. And then Trump's a lame duck, dude. Because right now, everything he gets away with is because Congress does not have any check on him. But once the midterms are over, assuming they run according to polling, he's in a much worse spot for getting anything through.